Hello and blessings to everybody on YouTube and Facebook. Once again, this is Roosevelt with another episode of Roosevelt Sounds Off. I was in a series and everything for a minute, but lately I've been interrupting my series, which I call A Tale of Two Countries, for some special reports concerning the legal system or the legal problems that are going on with police brutality and legal problems within this country right now, especially in New York and especially in this past week in Missouri. But right now, today I want to introduce another special guest that I have. I have with me a good friend of mine, LaReina, and she came on, agreed to come on as a special guest with me because even she had some legal problems and also has an opinion about the legal system here in America, and especially in particularly in Chicago. So I just want to welcome you to the program. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I know you've been talking about me doing this interview for a while.
I'm glad I was finally able to get you on to do something. Now, tell me, what kind of problem did you have legally with or what has been your experience with Chicago police and the court system of this country?
Well, I developed a little bit of disdain for the legal system, especially Chicago, here in Chicago. I had a situation with my teenage child.
Okay.
And it turned into an altercation because, when they get a certain age, they want to try you. And
like all of us did when we was that age.
She called the police, and they came to the house and had to get her story about what all that happened. Mm-hmm. And she ended up at the hospital, get treated for like a cut on her cheek.
Now, where did this cut on her cheek come from?
We were fighting.
Okay.
And actually, some things went back and forth, and my marks weren't visible. She had the mark on the cheek. Mm-hmm. And she was at the hospital, and they put the little bandage or whatever on it. Mm-hmm. And then while that was going on, I found out I was being charged with a misdemeanor domestic battery.
Mm-hmm. And after you found out that you were going to be charged with this misdemeanor domestic battery, what was the process like? Were you arrested or anything?
Yes, I was arrested at the hospital.
Okay. And I knew that just had to hurt just like over your child, because one thing is, and I just don't understand like where it went all wrong because me and you were almost the same age, only you're just a year older than I am. As a matter of fact, you just had your birthday. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know where it went all wrong, to where I know that when I was a child, anybody could discipline us, whether it was a parent, another family member, even a neighbor down the street who didn't know you. But it seems like nowadays you can't discipline or even deal with your own child.
They really don't want you to engage in corporal punishment if something goes down. The legal system's on the side of the child.
But why do you think that is now? I mean, because it wasn't like this and everything before. As children, we didn't have a voice back then.
Right, it's just this, I think what it is, so many people believe that corporal punishment is wrong, mm-hmm. and that's why these children are so out of hand, because they know we're limited into what we could actually do to them.
And I think that's the problem. So when you were in jail, after you were arrested, what was the process after that? Did you spend so many times or so many days like in
the process is 2 weeks 2 weeks until your court date. You're arraigned the next day, mm-hmm. and if you can bond out, then you're allowed to go. You just have to show up for your court date. But I was in jail. I didn't have a way of getting anybody to bond me out, and I probably had the money myself, but nobody could I could had nobody to bond me out, and I could pay them back rent. So I had to sit in Cook County lockup until my court date came.
Mm-hmm. And from what I hear, Cook County lockup is not a nice place to be.
No, it's not.
And when you stood before the judge during your court date, what judge did you stand before? And was the judge black or white or what?
It was a black lady, but this is what happens. Before then, they take all the facts, they get the victim's statement and all this, and they offered me a deal.
States attorney,
yeah.
or did you have your own private attorney or public
No,
defender?
public defender, but
I know that they work together. Basically, it's pretty much the public pretender, because they kind of play both sides of the fence.
They do. I say it's a joke without a punchline.
Yeah.
But what it is, they offered me a deal of the 18 months probation and all of that. I had to complete anger management, and pretty much that was it.
And the anger management. Now, how did you complete that? Now, was that in the form of a class? Or?
Yes, that was a class.
And what was the requirements for this class? Like, what did you have to do? Anything particular?
No, it's just basically I had to find my own anger management class. I found it through, the Board of Health clinics. It was, certain ones offered different services. The particular one on 63rd in Low, they offer anger management. I don't know if they still do it, but they offer the anger management. And a lot of times, like if you're on probation or whatever, your probation officer, that'd be one of your requirements for probation, or they'll suggest that you do the anger management. And that was one of my requirements for my probation, that I had to do anger management. So I was lucky to find that, and I didn't have to pay for it. It was a 4-week class, and I didn't have to pay for it, so I was glad in that respect. But the thing is that I did have probation fees, and I did have court fees to pay. And I had to deal with the order of protection. We're in the same house, but the judge gave her order of protection.
And like I know how some people, can do. They can just because they know they have order of protection against you, then they can try to abuse it, like try to show up or try to provoke you into something, and into acting. So when you act, they can call the police and have you rearrested.
Yes.
Did any of this kind of stuff happen
Well,
while
it
the order
happened
of
quite a
protection
few
was in effect?
times. Yes, it happened quite a few times, but a lot of times when she would call the police, they knew that the police don't feel that way. Like a parent should be able to discipline their child, so they're talking to her like, "Get out of here! We don't want to hear this." How is it that you're in the same house but you have order of protection? So a lot of times she would call them and they never paid too much attention to it.
And do you think that basically when during your arrest and your time in the court system, do you feel that race and maybe economic status played a part? Or do you feel that race and economic status plays a part in any kind of arrest?
It does.
Or incarceration?
I think it does, because if you're a minority, especially if you were low income, because the system is mostly about money. Nobody cared about my side or what actually happened. Of course, you're given a chance to take it to trial, but then you still have to sit there. And if you decide to take it to trial, you have to sit another 2 or 3 weeks if you don't have the money to bond out. And then, as I say, they hit you with court fees and probation fees and all of that. And actually, when it was time for my probation to be up, I had to, because usually if you completed everything, it just terminates. But no, I had to reappear in court because I hadn't finished paying off the court fees. And at that point, they can say, well, that they can extend the probation, or they can send you back to jail, or they can decide to, come after you other means to get their money.
So it's up to the judge what pretty much kind of like what he wants to do with
what
you.
They want, what she wants to do.
So if it's a judge or something who could be in a good mood that day, he could just let you go and just say, or give you a payment plan or something.
Well, I had a payment plan, but you're supposed to have everything completed by the time your probation is up. So they could say terminated satisfactory, you're done, or they can extend the probation until you're finished paying, or they can send you back to jail, or they can go after you other means, like go after your taxes or whatever if you're working. So, but I was in the position where she was more concerned about had I completed the anger management. So mine terminated satisfactory. I didn't have to make any more payments. I had paid up about $125 of the $450, and so mine terminated satisfactory. But it depends. But a lot of times, depending on the type of case you have, they'll extend the probation until you're finished paying.
And depending on how the judge is feeling. So if the judge or something, is in a good mood, if he is in a bad mood, and things, let's just put it this way, might not have gone so well with his wife last night, and he couldn't make love to her. You trying to say he would come in the morning and take it out on you just because he had a bad day, a bad night, or pretty much they have enough power to do whatever it is that they want. Do you think that's how it can go?
Right, and because the type of case I had, because she's a child, they look at me at this, out of control monster.
Even though she was a teenager.
Yeah, that attacked attacked my child. That she was this out of control monster. That's how I looked at. I'm seeing the paperwork and everything they give me. They put in the special notes in the comments. The victim is 14 years old and all this other stuff.
Okay, and do you think that like I said, that race, it does play a part in every single kind of a thing? And do you think that it is playing a part even right now? And what are your feelings also about, like, right now? For all you all who don't know, this is being taped on the 19th of August of 2014, and in this week, I'm pretty sure that you know, just like I think the whole nation knows, like what is going on, like in Ferguson, Missouri, with the shooting of Michael Brown, and Eric Garner case in New York, where a black young man was strangled by the New York City police, even though he kept saying over and over again, like over 11 times, that he could not breathe. This particular officer still kept had his arm around his neck. What are your feelings about that within this country and everything, like right now, as to what's going on, how it could relate to you or any one of us?
I feel that if, as I said, you're a minority, that's already the first mark against you. Law enforcement doesn't take you seriously. You get, put through the ringer through the court system. That basically that you're that you're a second and maybe a third class citizen. Especially not only if you're a minority, if you're not well off, if you don't have the money to to hire your own attorney, to basically post bail, do certain things for yourself. You're a sitting duck.
Yeah, so that's pretty. So you think that probably even influenced, even though they're trying to say now that he did commit a crime before he was stopped by this particular officer, but I think that even if you did commit a crime, like I was trying to tell a friend of mine last night, that I think that even if you did commit a crime, now maybe you do deserve to be arrested or pay the price, but at the same time, I know that the Constitution, no matter if you're guilty or not, still guarantees you the right to a fair trial. But do you think that just because of your color, do you think that could sometimes influence sometimes how the police, whether you're guilty or not guilty of anything, armed or unarmed, could talk to you or could even approach you?
Yeah, I do believe it does. Especially that, another thing I said, if you don't have deep pockets.
You mean just like be just rich and just be well off? And with all of this kind of craziness going on in your life, because I mean it was a bad time, do you think that things are any better with your daughter? And if they are, how did things become better with your daughter?
Let's see. It's basically... you feel that the system that they took a lot of the authority out of my hands. So she's basically at that age now. Well, she'll be turning 18 pretty soon, and basically when they become adults, you gotta let them live their life.
And I know really that you're also in the church also as well. And do you think that being in the church has played a role to maybe help you get over some things or something that could have happened that could have been wrong somewhere like that?
Yeah, because there were a couple of times where she was acting up and holding this whole order of protection or whatever in my head, and I would call my pastor and she would talk me through a lot of stuff.
And I know sometimes whenever you're dealing with this kind of stuff, I mean, sometimes I guess maybe, do you think that it takes also earnest just prayer just to get through it?
It does.
Even during your time of incarceration.
It does. The 2 weeks seemed to be the longest 2 weeks of my life.
And me myself, that's how come I don't know how people, they can go to jail and just get sentenced to jail for years and years and stuff at a time. I don't know how they do it, how someone could sit that amount of time. If somebody gonna tell me I had 10 years, I think I'm going to kill myself before I have to go through 10 years.
Because when they offered me that deal,
I'm not going to take no 10 years.
Right. I didn't think that it was actually fair, but here's the thing. If you try to take it to trial, things may not go your way, and you can end up getting some time.
Because it's almost like, I mean, it's a gamble.
Right. The deal
because they'll give you a deal, because the deal always sounds, a whole lot of people, because they don't, like you said, because of their race, also too, because they don't have the money to fight for a good attorney, and they don't have the chance to possibly even try to stay out of jail. a whole lot of people, even if they're not guilty, even if they didn't do anything, they just rather take the plea and even go through the chances of having a felony on their record than to take their chances at a trial and get sentenced to a higher rate of time. Because it's like a major gamble.
Because I was blessed because mine was a misdemeanor. But at that point, I did not want to spend another 3 weeks in lockup. And then I didn't want to take the gamble because that deal goes out the window and I could have gotten some time.
And do you think that when you were arrested, because, I've had bad experience with Chicago police and that kind of thing. Even here, something, like 9 years ago where my home and everything was raided. And I think that we were treated like very badly. Called MFs and the N-word and all of the other kind of stuff. And I've had other bad experience. But yet I've also met some officers who could be like very nice too. But do you think that with your experience, do you think that you were treated nicely or even fairly? Would you say you were treated fairly by members of the Chicago police?
Well, at the time I was arrested, I was basically treated pretty respectfully. He explained, what was going on, what the charge was, and I wasn't disrespected or mistreated or anything. But so I considered myself blessed in that regard because it could have been worse. But I was just in shock that I was going through all that to begin with.
And and to me, it shouldn't happen, especially from nobody's child. Because as far as I'm concerned, you had that child. I don't think that any kind of judge, any police officer, any jury could actually tell you like how to discipline your own child. But that's what's happening every single day in this country. And I don't know how come like it's changed that you can't do anything, can't say anything to these children, or you can't do anything. So it's like, do you think also too because of this? Because you did say it earlier that it's taken because it's taken a whole lot of the power out of the hands of the parents. Do you think that it goes to the contribution to what like bad things that teenagers do now out on the street?
Yes, it does, because they know that the parents and everybody else is limited, so to what they can do to them. So basically there are no consequences. They get to do what they want to do when they want to do it.
And there's nothing that you can do or say. But I'm glad that you did, come out of it. And I'm glad that you, even though it happened to you, as far as like you and your daughter goes, do you think that you carry any kind of anger or resentment towards your daughter for that?
I have, because basically she played the system, and as I said, because
you knew how to do it.
Her mark was visible and mine weren't, even though the public defender supposedly took pictures. It basically is just brushed off. I went for my bond hearings. Basically, it got brushed off. So because her age and her mark was visible and mine weren't really. Okay,
well, I'm glad that you did come out of it and that you seem like you're okay. And one thing I think the whole moral of the story is, maybe whenever you go through these kind of bad things, maybe through God and through Christ, do you think that everything is a whole lot better, or that things can get better?
I do. So
that's a good thing. So there you all have it pretty much. And thank you for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. I really, really do. And for all of you who don't know, this is Roosevelt with another episode of Roosevelt Sounds Off, and this was a special report part 2 with my special guest that I had on, LaReina. And I appreciate you all watching on YouTube. Continue on to comment and to say whether you like it or love it or whatever. And next time I will be coming to you again with another update or another program. So I'll see you all another time. Thank you.